Hello, I'm Dustin with Kruger Instruments and Kruger's Training Academy. With this video, we're going to show you how to test the PVB utilizing the ASSE, IAPMO, ANSI Series 5000, the 2022 version. Make sure you're using the right version. There is a 2015 and 2009 version. One hose test procedure for the ASSE 1020. It does say 5-valve here, but we're actually going to use a 2-valve test kit. It's the Kruger Instruments TK2. Instead of having all 5 valves, you just have the high and low bleeds. There's quite a few words here on the sheet, but the first step, it's kind of listed in there with all the words: notify, identify, inspect, observe. So if you're taking a class and you have a proctor, you might have to say something slightly different. You might be like, hey, I'm Dustin, I'm here to test your backflow preventer, I'm going to shut off your water. Whatever they want you to say is cool. Notify, identify, inspect, observe is a very popular one. Next step is install test adapters. This is a Febco, so they already have the test adapters on it. They're 1/4-inch flare. That's what they're talking about. Some proctors will make you want to go, I'm installing the test adapters. Some of them don't. A lot of times they are already on there. They're not going to have that on your exam where you have to install them. Next test, flush the test cocks. Flush test cock 1, open and close test cock 2. Remove canopy. If your test doesn't have a canopy, you don't worry about it. If you're in the field, you're probably going to have a canopy. Open, so you close all gauge valves. Open high bleed valve. Close low bleed valve. So the high bleed is open when you pressurize the kit. That creates it so you don't have a lot of water hammer. You're not going to shock your gauge. The trouble is when you open the test cock, you do kind of shoot water everywhere. So make sure you're paying attention to where your gauge is facing when you do that. Attach high hose to test cock 2. Open test cock 2. Close your high bleed. You'll notice your line pressure gauge, I'm getting 42. That's not the reading. You don't take the line pressure after this because there is a check valve in between test cock 1 and 2. So you have to get the line pressure after that when you're attached to test cock 1. You close shut off 2. Make sure your gauge is level with the air inlet when you close shut off 1. Some people say it should be level when you're opening the high bleed. For ASSE, they say to make sure it's level starting for when you shut the shut off. Close shut off 1, make sure you're level. Next step, you're getting the air inlet opening point. So you open high bleed. Some people say a 1/4 turn. I would do it a lot less than that. You'll see the pressure start dropping on the line pressure. Once it gets to the 15 scale, you look at that. You want to go very slow. At some point, this air inlet's going to pop. You should hear it. You might not hear it, you might just see it. The way it's supposed to go, you should have the end of your high bleed and the center of this gauge level with the top of the air inlet. So I would say hold the gauge sideways. Some people want you to like hold it up like this. Technically that does create a little bit of, I guess 6 inches of head pressure differential. If you have a little hose attached to the end of the bleed, say you're using like a Midwest or Arbiter 5-valve, the end of that little hose should also be level. It doesn't really say that specifically, but because you have hoses that are full of water that are connected to the kit, if you have the hose on the ground or over here somewhere, you want to make sure that's also level with everything, because when you open that high bleed, you are creating a system where it's all connected. So you might have head pressure changes affecting your test. So we're here, we're at 7. We open it up slightly. At some point that air inlet pops. You might see it, you might hear it. You'll see the gauge usually drop pretty quickly down to 0 after it pops. So 2.1 is what I got there. So you go ahead on your test report. Again, you don't know the line pressure yet. Air inlet 2.1. Next test is the open fully test. For some of the other procedures, you don't do this. For the ASSE ones, you do. You go ahead and remove the high hose from the test cock, and then they say to just kind of look at the valve itself. There's no real way like science to it, but you can clearly see this opened all the way. If it doesn't open all the way, then you would fail that test. If you're in an exam, it's probably going to open all the way. There's very few things that can make it not, like open, but not open all the way. Next, you close test cock 2. Open shut off 1. Mark on your test report sheet that it opened fully. Now you're going to attach the test kit for the check valve. Open high bleed valve. It should already be open because you just opened it, but it says to open it again. Attach high pressure hose to test cock 1. Open test cock 1. Water will come out of your high bleed valve when you open it. Close test cock 1. You'll see the line pressure. It's reading 42. So you go ahead and write that on your test report sheet. Static line pressure 42. Next, when you shut the shut off 1, what you want to do is keep an eye on this line pressure gauge. You shut off 1. The line pressure starts dropping. That means you have an outlet shut off leak. So that is the test for that. You close shut off 1. You say shut off 2 is closed tight. It's not leaking through the assembly. Make sure your gauge is level with the top of the test cock. Open test cock 2. You have to wait until all of the water stops running. See, it's still kind of dripping a little bit. Make sure that flow has stopped completely. This is a 1-inch valve, so there's a little more like water in it, but in your test, it's probably not going to take that long. We'll call that tight. We'll say it stopped running. 1.4. If you notice, this first line is 1, second line is 2. There's another video going over the test kit and how it works and everything, but there's like a floating 0. 1 is the first line you see, and then 1.5, I guess, is what that is. Each little one is 2. You say 1.5 for the check valve, closed tight. Also, you could test the shut off 1 with this test. Essentially, if water's not running out, then you know shut off 1 is also closed tight. If you had a leaky shut off 1, I'll go ahead and simulate it real quick. You'll see kind of water coming out. Like it never stops running. That's the reason why you have to wait till it stops running. If it never stops running, that means shut off 1 is leaking. That means you can't test the check valve because it's in an open condition. If you have a little tiny bit of flow and you're not sure why, just try to give it a nice little snug on the shut off. You might not have shut it as close tight as you thought you did. So now you close your test cocks, remove equipment. It says to restore the valve to pre-test condition, meaning it's not really super clear on that, on the paperwork. It means if you walked up and shut off 2 was shut, then you want to keep it shut. Don't open the shut off. If there's something downstream, you might flood a room or something. Don't open it if it's closed when you get there. For us, it was open when we got here because it's a prep stand. So you go ahead and open shut off 1, and then open shut off 2. Reinstall the canopy, and you have your readings. Again, you have line pressure, shut off tightnesses for both sides, the air inlet opening point, and the check valve. Since it passed everything, we go ahead and say it passed. So thank you for tuning in. Make sure to check out our other videos. We test pretty much all the different types of backflows with all the different types of backflow procedures. Feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to make a lot more videos for you guys. It definitely helps with the subscribers if you subscribe and comment and like. So thank you for joining us, and check us out on the other videos.